Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Dorien Morin-van.
Hello, everybody. I am your host, Dorien Morin-van. Can you believe this is the last strategy talks of 2022? I had no idea there would be so many episodes, and I might have saved the best for last. I don't know. We'll find out in just a minute. Before we go and introduce you to our guest, I want to say a quick hello to everybody who's here live. Thank you so much for being here live. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you so much that you are here. If you have questions for my guest or myself, please put them in the comments. And last but not least, a special shout out to those who are listening to Strategy Talks as a podcast. Thank you so much for being with us today. I want to do a special shout out to our sponsor, Social Insider. They are the intuitive dashboard for social media analytics, reporting, and competitors analysis for brands and agencies. If you need data, you need Social Insider. So without much further ado, let me bring onto the screen with us today, Emmy Kissinger. Hi, Emmy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. You and I met somewhere online, probably LinkedIn or maybe in a Facebook group. And there's a lot of similarities between us, you know, moms, kids, and starting as social media managers. And I'm so excited that you're here today. We're going to talk about user-generated content. Before we do, want to see some people are here. Emma is here from the south of France. Hi, Emma. So glad you're here. Let me introduce Emmy to all of you. So we have Emmy and Emma watching. Emmy Kissinger is a mom of 3 from Iowa. In 2018, she began the transition from school psychologist to social media manager so that she could spend more time with her kids. Most recently, she founded Connect Well Social, a micro agency on a mission to help your business thrive through social media management that puts human connections first. So before we talk about user-generated content, Emmy, let's talk about how you use psychology in social media, because that is brilliant.
Yeah. So the ways that I use psychology, especially as a social media manager, truly thinking about our audience and the people in it and their behaviors, the way that they want to interact with the content, the amount of content that we're pushing out. Truly that social listening, I think, and the psychology really pair together really nicely, because we can tell easily if we're posting too much, if we're not posting enough, if we're truly watching our audience and how they're engaging with our content. So I think that kind of all rolls together to create really beautiful strategies from my perspective, with a psychological understanding and underlying foundation that creates something really great for the brands that I work with.
That's awesome. So just for those who are watching and listening, Emmy, do most of your clients, are most of them local in Iowa, or do you have some that are in different states and all over the country?
Yeah, it's a mix of businesses that are in my local community, and then also corporate clients that span actually the globe.
That's wonderful. That's fantastic. And I know we were just talking in the green room. Your youngest one just turned 1. That's a lot to be working from home. Sounds like you have some help, which is wonderful, because we were reminiscing when I started. My youngest was in kindergarten and I had 4 kids and had them at home all summer, but we can do this. Social media is amazing. So today we're going to talk about user-generated content. So let's start with the basics. If somebody's watching, they're a business owner or they're a new social media manager, or maybe they're somewhere in marketing, but they want to spice up what they're doing right now. What is user-generated content? What do you define it? And what types of content can you put out that's user-generated content?
Yeah, so user-generated content essentially means that you are taking content that either you create or is created by someone in your audience that looks like it's coming from someone who is a follower or a fan or someone who really enjoys your brand, so you can pay people to create this type of content, kind of like hiring an actress or someone to actually create the content for you, or you can reach out to people who are in your audience who you see following you regularly and ask them to create it for you. And maybe you have some sort of partnership there. And then you can also truly have just people on your team or people who are your legitimate clients who are creating user generated content for you. It kind of depends on whether you're a B2C or B2B brand, who you're actually looking to create that content. But essentially, it's connecting with people who would be able to tell a story about working with you or using your product, and then be able to share that content on social media and on your website. The different types of content that might go into a user generated campaign, there's many, many different options, but most of it revolves around story, kind of like you said back when we were in the green room. But there's lots of different kinds. Some are your typical like unboxing videos. Some are lifestyle content where you're like, oh, you have like a product right back here, and you're kind of like telling a story. Other types are testimonials that maybe you actually are at an industry level conference. You set up a spot in your booth where you're connecting with your clients that are coming through to talk to you, and you sit them on a stool and say, hey, could you share a little bit about working with us and the positive impact that that's had on your business or your life, and then have them talk about it and then use that as content. So those are some of the different ways that you can kind of connect with user generated content and share it with your audience.
That's awesome. We're going to dive in that in just a second, but I have a question that just came up.
Okay.
Is it ever okay to grab content that you see online that people talk about you and just grab that? Maybe you're a bigger brand, right? And maybe they use your product. Can you just use that picture or that video?
I think the rule of thumb is that you would ask. You would
Okay.
you would reach out to them and you'd say, "Hey, that was really great. We really appreciated it." Maybe you could even compensate them for that post in some way. Do something, maybe even a small gesture. Have you ever heard the story of a woman who posted a video about Lowry's seasoning salt? And
No,
Lowry's
tell
saw
us.
it, and they actually sent her own seasoning salt with her picture on it and everything, because they were like so grateful because nobody's ever out there talking about
That's wonderful, but
leveraging.
that's a wonderful example of listening, which is what you
Yes.
said before. Which is what you do with your company, listening to what people are saying about your product, and then the next step is not just listen and say thank you, but then go above and beyond and make your customer super happy, because that's really how you get user generated content, right? For
Yeah.
them to be genuine advocates, genuine users, people who love what you have or love what you do, right? And so, yeah, if you have to pay somebody, and you can pay an actor, sure, but it's always much better when the user generated content are people who actually use and love it. And I've been
Yes.
involved with companies who didn't even necessarily know exactly how to use their product as well as some of these users, because they came up with
Oh, yeah.
wonderful ways to use it. So that's a great way to use user generated content. I love that. Thank you for explaining that. So let's dive a little bit deeper in a strategy you would use. I asked you in the green room, you said user generated content can be used for almost any business, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk about B2B. If so you're watching right now or listening and you're B2B, Emmy is going to talk a little bit more about how to use generated content as a B2B, and then we'll go to B2C.
Yeah, so I kind of described one example already where one of my clients actually had all of the clients that they connected with at an industry conference come in and they shared their stories. They made a YouTube channel just for those stories, and now we repurpose them and use them and share them kind of over and over again. We have about 100 stories that we rotate through, which is really amazing. But all of those people are authentically and legitimately vouching for the product that they're using with my particular client. Another good example, my mom actually, she called me one day and she's like, I saw you talking about user generated content online. And I cannot wrap my head around how we would do that for our business. And they're in wholesale plants. And I said, Mom, I was just looking at the catalog that your company puts out, and you had pictures of all of the different growers that you connect with, and they had like a little quote. You could take every single one of those photos and repurpose it for social media as a form of user generated content, because user generated content can be videos, but it can also be photos.
That's a great example. So getting a quote from somebody, especially if you're in B2B, that's great. Wholesale plants, right? So these are the suppliers.
Exactly.
Or if you're a plumber and you do plumbing for big commercial buildings, there might be somebody in the building that, can talk to you about, their business, or, give you a recommendation or testimonial like, hey, we are a restaurant, our plumbing went out, they came in really quick, and they depending on what you want, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes you can tell somebody what you're looking for. We're looking for a testimonial to show that we're responsive, or we're looking for a testimonial to show that we do what we say we do, right?
Mhm.
Or we're really affordable, right? You can kind of
Exactly.
guide your clients on what you're looking for. That's awesome. So let's go to B2B. No, B2C. So we
Yeah.
did B2B. Those were some great examples, Emmy. I love that. So how about B2C? What kind of user generated content can you look for or create or ask somebody to create?
Yeah. So again, kind of like playing off this idea that the most authentic is the best type of content that we can kind of use and share and utilize to really increase conversions. I work with a small liquor store in my town, a liquor store and gift store. And we have someone in our community who loves to come in. She's also a mom, and she will buy sometimes like the different variety packs of things, and she will actually create a social media post, and she will try all of the different items in the pack, and then she'll share it. She'll do a story about it, and then I always reach out to her as the social media manager and say, "Hey, can we repost that? It was so good. We loved it. Thank you so much." And then guess what? Her friends want to try the variety pack too.
Right, right. So that's a brilliant example. Let's talk a little bit about like testimonials. What have you found? Because that's a brilliant one. Everybody has testimonials, right?
Mhm.
You as social media manager, I social media manager, we probably have testimonials or recommendations on LinkedIn. We
Yeah.
can repurpose those on our website. What have you found to be the best? Is it video or images?
I have actually found for my own brand and for clients that both will actually convert. Sometimes, if we're doing kind of these nurturing campaigns where we have lots of content that we're sharing about our product or about just industry related information, and then we've been nurturing, and throw a testimonial out there, whether it's a graphic or a video, that'll oftentimes be the thing that actually helps bring people in and get them to want to work with you. But I definitely see more power in the video, especially since we can repurpose it in so many places now because we have, TikTok. I just saw your post about TikTok and how it's time.
It is time. It
But,
is time to do it. I'm working on a strategy for TikTok. You and I should talk in the green room afterwards.
we
But
definitely should.
yes, yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
So user generated content, I think that's almost it's not user generated content has been around all the for a very long time. I don't know if we necessarily even called it that. But with the birth of TikTok and with the birth of Reels, people really started thinking about this idea of how can I have my my actual the people who buy my product create content for me, and then seeing the power that that content really holds, because I think it's like 97%, 92% of consumers turn to people they know for referrals, and
Mhm.
90% of consumers say that they're actually looking for authentic reviews from people that they feel connected with in order to actually make that purchasing decision.
It makes sense. I mean, I'm going to ask you a question. I mean, if you need a new car, where are you going to go first? You're going to go to the dealership, or you're going to ask your mom friend?
I'm gonna ask my dad.
Right, you're gonna ask your dad. There you go. So there's your first step, and then you probably read some reviews, and then you decide on what car you want, and then you're gonna research the dealerships and ask people's experiences with the
Mhm.
dealership, and then you might get into, well, now I picked a dealership. Anybody worked with this dealership? Anybody have a positive experience with one of the salespeople? Right. So
Yep.
see, you eventually get there. Yeah, there are some people who still walk in and just it's a luck of the draw. But right now, we have the power as consumers. We can do a lot of this research before we buy. And so
Mhm.
we're well informed. And shame on us when we walk in somewhere and we have a bad experience because we didn't research. We didn't do the
Right.
research. So user generated content is really fun content, isn't it? It's
So
it's
fun. Yes.
it's so fun. So usually for me, with not usually, but some of the clients that I work with, I find content that I didn't even think to create, right?
Oh, yeah.
The users come up with ideas, right? And let's throw something out there. Say you have a lamp. I had somebody send me an amazing office lamp for free. They saw that I was speaking and they're like, hey, do you have one of our lamps? And they send it to me and I made this video for them and they loved it, right? Because now that I get something from them for free, they didn't even
Mhm.
ask for user generated content. But of
Yep.
course, I wanted to create it. So,
Right.
one of the things about this lamp, which is really amazing, is that it has a little outlet for a USB outlet in the back of it. So now I can charge my phone right from my lamp. It's like part of
Yes.
my station.
That's
So
awesome.
it's just like so cool. So I showed that, and so yeah, absolutely. When you have a cool product, your users will actually tell you how they're using it, which is really really cool. On the go or planned out, what do you think? User generated content, Emmy, is it always better to script it, plan it, and have the client involved, or do you as a social media manager sometimes come up with it, find unsolicited user generated content that is brilliant? What have you found to be true?
I would say truly both. I mean, we can set this up, we can plan it, we can go out and connect with people who are going to actually create the content for us. We can reach out to people in our communities and see who would actually like to even be on video and share their story. But I think the best content is the content that we just find, or a lot of the ways that I actually connect with the brands that I work with in terms of user generated content is when I buy a new product, I tell them that I purchased it. I tell them that why I purchased it and when I'm planning to use it. And then oftentimes they say, "Hey, could you create some videos for us?"
Yeah, that's really smart, right? Yeah, I mean, I've done that before too. Um, we as moms, we use a lot of different products
Oh
with our
yeah,
kids, car seats, and
all day, every
we
day.
have our preferences of things. So that makes sense that if you're a consumer brand that caters to either stay-at-home moms or moms with multiple kids, that you want to be listening. So let's talk about that for a minute before we and we're almost at the end already, but let's
I
talk
know
about
this went so fast.
I know how to find that user generated content. Say you're a brand, you haven't done any of this, you're a small business. Um, and you heard us say there might already be some content out there
Mhm.
that you can look for. How do you find it, Emmy? Where do we go? What do we do? Do you have some like hacks for us to find the content that we need to be listening for?
Definitely. We're watching for those tags. Obviously, whenever someone tags our brand, we make sure and review that content and see what they said, and see if we could potentially use that for our own social media accounts and profiles and channels. Another way is to watch hashtags. People might be creating hashtags that involve your brand in some capacity, and you might have to get creative and look. Use some different types of lists and really be kind of searching around for it. Another way is just to talk to people. So if somebody's going through your checkout line at your store, you're connecting with them, they're telling you a story. Hey, would you be willing to make a little video for us, even right there on the spot? And people usually say yes.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, I don't know if I told you in the green room, but we usually have a rapid fire round right at the end. So
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you three questions. They're going to be one or the other. So, Emmy, visual learner or verbal learner?
Mm, I just struggle with some of these types of questions. I'm definitely more of a verbal learner, listening.
Okay.
Yep.
Pep talk or motivational quote? Which one does it for you?
Motivational quote.
Okay. Speed or accuracy? And this can be in your business or it can be as a mom.
Definitely a mix between the 2. Gotta have a
Okay.
there's some tasks where it's speed and some where accuracy matters most.
That's awesome. Well, Emmy, do you specialize in anything within social media? I mean, as a social media manager, we've got a lot of different hats we wear, right? Sometimes we wear too many, but is there something that you want people to know about you that you're really awesomely good at, and that especially with 2023 coming up, that you want people to connect with you for? Because we're the next, I'm going to ask you where to connect with you, but is there something you specialize in?
So kind of you to ask. Yeah, I really specialize in that corporate B2B kind of LinkedIn, Twitter campaign creation. And then I also create user generated content for clients if they reach out to me. And I've kind of been leaning that direction because there's just such a huge need right now. And it's just so fun to create. And I just learned how to use a teleprompter app the other day. And I was like, oh, I'm like really good at this. So
Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun to have?
it's so fun.
Did you use an iPad or your phone?
I use my phone.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to have an iPad and I got a little stand for it, and then you have it a little bit bigger because
Yep.
my eyesight. And then, yeah, teleprompters are awesome because then you really look smart. You can have that whole thing memorized, which you don't. But that's
Right.
awesome. I love it. That's great. So, Emmy, what is the name of your business and where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, they can find me on at Connect Well Social and also Emmy Kissinger. So I'm most present on Instagram. That's really my favorite platform because it's so fun. I'm next most available on LinkedIn, always on there at least a couple times a day. So they can look me up under Emmy Kissinger or Connect Well Social, also on Facebook and TikTok as well.
Fantastic. So we're looking for more user-generated content ideas from you in 2023. Thank you so much. This was a great wrap up for the year. User-generated content is something that everybody who owns a business should be thinking about, guys. If you watch this, if you listen to this, and you have had clients come to you and say, "Oh, I just loved using your products, this, or your service was amazing," capture those words, capture the images, capture the video, and share that on social, because people don't always do what you tell them to do. They do what other people tell them to do, right? Because
So true.
we listen to our friends as far as buying power. So, Emmy, thank you so much for being with me this morning. To all of you who were here live and who are watching this on the replay or might be listening to Strategy Talks as a podcast, thank you so much for being with me today, but not just today, all of 2022. I will be back in 2023. And Emmy, thank you so much for your time this morning, and see you all later. Bye, everybody. Happy New
Thank you.
Year.
This was so fun.